Hi, welcome to Actualol. I'm Jon Purkis. Today I'm going to talk about every game in my collection. This was a goal that I reached on my Patreon campaign, so thank you everyone for supporting. The next couple of goals are a video about how I first got into games and another board game song, so if you'd like to see those happen, then please consider backing at patreon.com/Actualol. Before I talk about the games, I know there'll be comments about the bookcase. There's two IKEA Besta bookcases, slightly different colours because they stopped doing the colour I used to have. Yeah, that's the bookcase. Let's get on with the game. So starting in the top left corner with Lords of Vegas. This is a great negotiation game about building casinos in Vegas. You're trying to steal them from other people. I covered this one in my Monopoly video. This is a definite keeper. I wish that there was a prettier updated version, and maybe Asmodee's acquisition of Mayfair might make that happen because it's kind of ugly, but it's a great game. And it's really heavy because it's got loads of poker chips in to replace the paper money. Looney Quest is a really unique game. There's this video game artwork in the middle and then you're drawing on some perspex trying to get the right lines. I covered this in my Pictionary video. This one I'm keeping because it's just so different and unique. It'll be great for kids and families, great artwork. Kitchen Rush I reviewed really recently. I love this. It's a real-time cooperative game about running a restaurant. Definitely keeping this one. I love the hectic, thematic nature of this. Viral was in my top 20 board games of last year. It's an area control game with a really nice medical theme where you're attacking a guy's body. So I don't know, I'm not hugely into area control games all the time, but this one is one that I've really liked. I'm keeping this one, but who knows in 5-10 years time whether it will last the distance. Game of Thrones, the trivia game. This is a really great take on a trivia game. It adds in some really cool aspects, some push your luck and area control, but it's Game of Thrones, so not everybody knows trivia about it. It's very specific and it's a massive box. So I really enjoy playing it, but I don't get to play it very often. Game of Thrones, the Iron Throne. This is the negotiation game that they brought out that's kind of an update of Cosmic Encounter. I like this one. I don't have Cosmic Encounter. I slightly prefer this, but it goes on really, really long, and I'm not sure it's necessarily worth it, so might not stay around forever. That's Game of Thrones, the Iron Throne. This is Game of Thrones, the board game, 2nd edition. This is one of my first games that I really fell in love with. This is an epic negotiation game, diplomacy game, where you're backstabbing everyone. It's really thematic, takes forever, but I love it for that. And it's a definite keeper because of just all the memories I've had. It creates such great experiences. Tobago is a really interesting deduction game, reverse deduction game. It's got incredible pieces, these islands with these resin statues. It's so different, it's really hard to describe. I'm keeping it though. It was really hard to come by as well. I don't think it's in print. Zombicide Black Plague. This is a really heavy box. I've got a Go 7 gaming insert in here, and this is a massive Kickstarter game. I did this in my zombie board games video. I really like the adventure aspect to it, that the rules are quite light, but it brings you the theme that you're looking for. It's just that the games last forever, and so that's the one thing that I'm not sure it's going to stay around forever in my collection because of how long the games are. I wish there were shorter scenarios. Right, on to some smaller games. Junta Las Cartas is a really new one. I've only played this one once. It's a light negotiation card game based on, thematically, Junta. There's a very old board game. It's got some interesting things to this one. I like the interaction. It's similar to Tifa Taschen, which is a game that I've talked about before. I'll be talking about this more, but for now, yeah, I like this one. Bonanza is a classic trading card game. I hate the artwork. It's just embarrassing, but it's a approachable game that anyone can get into, and it offers something different if somebody's coming new into board games. I don't use this as a gateway game anymore, but I like it. I think it's a great time. But I haven't played it in a while, but I'm keeping it for sure. I just wish it was better to look at. Brick Party is a party game that I feel is under the radar. It has Lego pieces. You're working in teams of 2 and you're trying to communicate to your teammate about what they need to build. You're their architect and they're the builder. And there's all these rules about how you can't communicate in certain ways. It's hilarious and plays 8. I would recommend this to families and people that like party games, and it's such a small box and it's different. So definitely keeping that one. Once Upon a Time is a classic storytelling game. It's got a fantasy theme and you are playing cards you have to sort of fit those things into your story. So if you have a witch or a king or something, you have to can carry on the story and you're telling it all together. It's different. I don't think it's perfect, but I've enjoyed my games of it. And I love that it's something different, so definitely holding on to this. It feels a bit dated in its look, but hey. Muse is a party game. It was in my top 10 party games of last year. Great game with Dixit-style art cards where you're working on teams. You're trying to communicate to your team the right card, but there's certain rules, like you have to describe it by a famous building or a type of animal. Brilliant game, absolutely brilliant. Definitely keeping this one for a long time. These 2 boxes are the Stonemaier Games Treasure Chest and Food Crate. If you don't know these, they have wonderful deluxe resources that look like bits of wood and brick and other things, and they're just incredible for pimping out your game. I'm going to be doing more videos on this kind of thing soon, so I won't go too much into that. The Hen Commandments is a game that I kickstarted a while ago. It's quirky. It's a persuasion game, a bit like Snake Oil or Fun Employed, so a party game, where you are writing commandments for a fictional religion. It's the religion is about chickens, and I love that quirky, funny theme. It makes everyone laugh. I don't think the mechanisms are perfect. I only played it a couple of times. I really want to return to this one. That's the Hen Commandments. Ink and Gold is a classic push your luck game where you're going into a temple together. You're trying to get out with the most stuff, but if you go in too far, you might get scared away and end up with nothing, and there's a bit of bluffing with the other players. Nice small box, really dated artwork, but I didn't really like the Diamante version from Yellow either. But yeah, this is a kind of old school keeper. I haven't actually played it in a while, but I have no plans of getting rid of it. Sakura is a game that I've only played once. This is a really new one from Osprey Games and Reiner Knizia. It's got a push your luck style to it. Really quirky theme of you're in a Japanese garden, you're trying to paint the emperor, but you want to get closer to him than everyone else, but not too close that you walk into him. Plays really quickly, and it's different to anything I have. So I think for now, I think it's going to be a keeper for me, but we'll see, and I'll talk about this one again. The same for Lost Expedition, really. I've only played this one once. It's got some lovely artwork from this French cartoonist, I think. It looks a bit like Tintin, and it's a cooperative game where you are trying to survive an expedition. The theme isn't super deep, it's quite light. It's a bit like maybe The Grizzled, that kind of thing where you can't communicate. So I'm hoping I enjoy more of this one, but not 100% sure. And then a little bit similar to that is Anirim. This is a very popular solo game. I don't play games solo, but I do enjoy playing Anirim 2-player. I play a lot of the app these days, so I haven't played this one so much, but I used to play this one a lot with my girlfriend, and we really enjoy this one and how challenging it is. Haven't tried all the expansions, it has like 7, but I'm keeping this one for now, but there is a chance that I play the app so much that I would just never want to play it in real life. Right, next shelf. Arboretum, classic couples game. I think it was in number 3 in my top 10 couples thing. This isn't going anywhere. Really interesting, thinky card game where you're collecting trees and then you're planting them in Arboretum, and it's surprisingly tense and stressful for what looks like such a nice theme. Love these small boxes and great artwork. T for Taschen I've talked about in a video. This is a light negotiation card game where you are divvying up money as a politician and then other people are voting on whether they want to keep you in power. There's a lot of intrigue and you don't know what other people are going to vote, and I really like this one. It's incredibly streamlined and impressive for what you get in the box, and I believe it's going to be reprinted properly in English soon. Blood of an Englishman is a nice small box two-player card game from the designer of Arboretum. It's interesting and different. There's some movement to it. It's kind of a hard one to describe. It's really an abstract card game. And I've enjoyed my plays of it. I don't know if it certainly didn't hit the spot for me like Arboretum did. So whether it will be in my collection in 5 years, not 100% sure on that. This House is Haunted is an interesting party game that is just like nothing I've ever heard of. I haven't played it. I found out about this one from Bauer's Game Corner. He plays a lot of interesting Kickstarter games that I'd never heard of, and this one really interested me because you play it in a darkened house, and each room of the house is like a different deck of cards, and you're going around and becoming different monsters, I think. So then there's some roles, and I don't know anything about it. I'm hoping to play this one really soon. It's one of my remaining unplayed games, but I just love the potential quirkiness of it. Here I've got some Monica's expansions. The Shut Up and Sit Down one is the best one because it comes with these decks of how you can play a fourth round. So Monica's I talked about in my couch games video. It's really a new take on the hat game or Celebrity or Time's Up, and the expansion adds in loads of ways to do silly things like dress up as a ghost and give clues, or give clues with sound effects. And so this is just expansions that I can't fit in the base game, which should be coming up somewhere. So I'm really into my tiny box games here. Slush Fund 2 I backed on Kickstarters from Steve Finn. Only played this one once, and partly that's just because I kind of like to play the games with bigger boxes to decide whether I'm going to keep them, and this is the smallest box I own. Simple theme. I like the idea of, it's kind of an area control game with two sides, two-player card game with some hidden stuff. Very simple idea. Good Cop, Bad Cop is a hidden role game. I really only kept this one because of the small box. I don't love this traitor type game. I just prefer other similar ones, and I might be trading this one, so yeah, maybe not a keeper for me. Attribute I picked up for £4 at UK Games Expo. My friend Josh told me about it. It's quite an old party game. I just played it for the first time the other day. We had fun with it. I'm still keeping it. You have word cards, and somebody just comes up with a category, and then you are told by the game whether to play a word that relates or play a word that doesn't relate, and then people have to kind of grab for the ones that they think relate. It's just a cool idea. This is Sugar Cubes. I've never actually played this one. It's basically a bunch of dice with letters in, and you roll them, and then you have to come up with a sentence that each word starts with those letters, and it has to kind of make sense. And so it just sounded really interesting to me, but I haven't actually had a chance to play it. Here I've got a deck box. ARG, Animals Revolt Against Humanity. Picked this one at Essen. Surprise hit. It's lovely small box, and it feels like an improved version of Cockroach Poker, which isn't a game that I felt needed improving, but it's a fun, simple bluffing game that it's all about how you get into it, and there's some real thought to how you bluff in this one. It only plays 4 players, but the last time I played this, we played this like 3 or 4 times in a row and had an absolute blast. So I would recommend this one highly. That's ARG, keeping that one for a good long time. Super Rhino is a classic dexterity game where you're building towers of cards. I talked about this in my dexterity games video. You get so much enjoyment out of this tiny box that I'm not getting rid of this. I didn't, however, find the same ratio of enjoyment from the bigger Super Rhino Super Battle. So that one didn't stick around for me, but I love having this one in my collection. This is a bag of a game called Spinergy. I found out about this through Dan King, the Game Boy Geek, and it's a really old party game with some creativity to it, where you have to write some stuff, like maybe you have to write a poem or something like that, and then other people, they know what you're writing about and they're trying to guess words that you would use, so you have to be really creative to dodge around those. Comes in a huge big box. I got it on eBay really cheaply, and it was way too much and it had all these silly rings and stuff, so I just made a smaller version. But it's an interesting game. I was sort of surprised at such an old game I enjoy so much. This little box contains a game that I made, and I think we tried it once, and it's basically my take on Fun Employed or Snake Oil. I love those persuasion party games. I don't get to play them that much, and this is one where you are pitching TV shows, because I have worked in TV and I know what it's like to be in rooms with producers and commissioners, and they're telling you what stupid things they want or the target audience they're looking for, and then you've got a hand of buzzwords, things like lesbians and vampires and whatever else, and you're combining them to make a TV show that's good for old people, and then you've got to explain why it works. So it's that kind of thing. Yeah, so maybe one day I'll play it a bit more. Lifeboat is an interesting, quirky, hidden role game that you're all on a boat and you love another character on the boat and you hate another character on the boat. And so you're trying to keep the person you love alive and the person you hate dead. And it goes on a bit long, but it's so different that, and it does create a lovely thematic experience, almost more so. It tells a story more than Resistance or One Night Ultimate Werewolf. So yeah, I don't know if I'll have it forever, but I really enjoy this one, and it's a nice small box. Felix, the Cat in the Sack, is a auction bluffing game. This is kind of an older one from Freedom and Freeze, and it's got cute cat artwork, but really it's about bluffing other people, bidding on things that aren't worth it to try and get other people to bid further, and it's just a nice filler game that I've had some good times with, and so I'd recommend that one. And you can, I think, get it pretty cheap from Amazon Germany. Herbaceous is a kind of a chilled out push your luck game where you're collecting herbs. It's got some lovely artwork and it's got really simple mechanisms. You could play this with anyone. This is kind of a mum game, and it's a little bit similar to Biblios in the way that you pick cards for you and for the group, but it's much simpler, and I kind of like that because I got rid of Biblios. Yeah, it's a fun one, this. I played it just the other day and decided that it's staying in the collection. Goth Save the Queen is interesting and different, and I guess that's a big theme of the games that I tend to like. And this one is a team game, a 4-player 2 versus 2, where you have hidden communication. Well, you're trying to read the mind of your partner, and you're basically fighting against each other, but will you understand what your teammate's trying to do, and then will the other team outthink you? And it's just a nice small box, and it's something different. It's not my favorite game in the world, but I like it. Scribble Time was in my top 10 party games of last year. Silly drawing game where you're having to draw things really quickly and then go back and guess what you drawed, and you can never remember it. It's a small box, different party game, and that's why it's in my collection. And it is hilarious. Like, loads of laughter. Heckmech is a push your luck dice game from Reiner Knizia. It's a very simple family game. It's got these really nice Baker-like pieces. You're rolling some dice. You're trying to get what you need. It's kind of a bit luck heavy, but it's got some nice kind of, you're trying to steal things from other players. And yeah, I like this one, but it's not, I wouldn't necessarily put it in a top 10. Pit Crew is a game that I've had a mixed time with. When I first played this, 3 players, I loved it. And it's a real-time game where you are, this is from Jeff Engelstein, who made Space Cadets and Dice Duel and things, and you're playing cards to try and fix your car the quickest, and then you've got to race around the track, and it packs quite a lot into a small box, but it's a terrible production, and I almost had a better time with it 3 players, so we're all just playing on our own teams, than I did when you team up. But I need to try this one again. So I'm not ruling this one out, but I don't know if it's It's got long staying power. Behind there, I tend to hide boxes behind. I've got the old version of Avenue because I can't force myself to get rid of it. It's too nice. Fungi was in my couples that play together video. Great couples, 2-player card game. Nice, cute theme. Really tense hand management where you're desperate to just take everything from the forest and collect all the sets, and you can't. You're going to have to get rid of some, and it's frustrating. Yeah, this one's staying around for a long time. Fungi. Also called morels in America. The Grizzled, I've done a full review of this. This is a surprisingly thematic, cooperative game with a lack of communication, and it's got this gritty theme of surviving the horrors of World War I, but there's no fighting. It's all about the kind of mental thing. I really like that. Wonderful artwork. Yeah, you can't not keep a game that packs this much into such a small box. And I love co-op games. This is another co-op game with a lack of communication. This is called Fast Food Fear. And I really enjoyed this, but it's too easy, far too easy, and we've tried to make it harder and harder, and we still find it too easy. It's a real-time game, it's got a sand timer in it, and you're trying to feed these monsters fast food. It's got nice artwork, cute theme, would be great for kids. The reason I've kept it is because I've got some ideas on how to make it more interesting, and so I was kind of keeping it as like a sort of prototype to play around with. But yeah, it's a nice, cute game as it is. This is Exit the Game Pharaoh's Tomb. I haven't played this, it's still in the shrink wrap, but I love the other two Exit the games that I've played. It's an escape room game in a box and really brilliantly designed. So I'm sort of saving this because I know I'm going to love it. HMS Dolores I've reviewed in a video a while ago. This is a interesting prisoner's dilemma game from Eric Lang and Bruijne Faiduti, where you have to decide where you want to split things or share them, but you're also trying to collect certain sets. I feel like I've said this a million times, but this is different to anything else that I own, and that's why I've kept it. I really enjoy what it does. And so keeping this one, this is kind of my perfect size game. I mean, I suppose that's the same for anyone, but that kind of box, if you can pack an interesting game in that kind of box, then you're really impressing me. Stipulations I talked about in my Cards Against Humanity video. This is a fun, hilarious party game where somebody has something cool, like they have the superpower that they can pass through physical objects, and then everyone else in the game has to write on a whiteboard a way to ruin that, a stipulation. And so everyone's just really kind of mean, and it's kind of, you enjoy being negative and making everyone else laugh. And yeah, so definitely keeping this one. I like those kind of games. Then we're on to the even smaller boxes. This is Debatable. I talked about in my top 10 party games of last year. You debate with each other on silly topics, and then it also gives you kind of dares, things that you have to do or say whilst you're doing it. Hilarious game. This is Monikers, which I talked about before in my couch games. It's charades or the hat game, like I mentioned before. Great game, and it's completely full with cards, so that gets massive respect. Knee Jerk is a party game that I got on sale for £1, or my friend got it for me. Haven't played it yet, so I can't tell you much more about that. Escape the Nightmare is a game that I backed on Kickstarter that sounded fascinating. I've only played one game of it. It didn't go that well, but again, it's a tiny box and I haven't tried it again since. It's a weird one, cooperatively timed, and you've got all these, it's very interactive. For example, a card says, oh, you've got to hug someone else, and there's different ways. It ruins the communication of the group. It's really peculiar and some weird artwork, but I've heard that it can be great, so I'm keeping it. Fake Artist Goes to New York is an amazing drawing game with hidden roles. This is easily my favorite kind of game to just put in a bag and play anywhere. Great, some sort of 5 players to 8 or 10, however high it goes. I talked about it in my Pictionary video. One person is, everyone knows what they're drawing collaboratively, but one person doesn't know what they're drawing and they're trying to work it out, but also stay hidden. Amazing game. I would recommend that to anyone. One of my favorites. Pairs is another tiny box. This is a push your luck card game that when I first played, I got the rules completely wrong and thought it was terrible. It's actually quite nice, and it's about knowing when to drop out and take a hit but not completely lose the game or the round. Yeah, nice game. I mean, I don't play it loads. Right, let's take a whole pile of these. I love these small box card games. And there's just a few companies like Amigo, NSV, and Schmidt that make all of these games, and some of them are amazing. Parade, there's a much nicer version available from Z, or actually not available from Z-Man. Hard to describe, but a great filler card game, surprisingly thinky. It's just numbers and colors. I'm not gonna try and explain it, but it's fun. The Game Extreme, I talked about the game in my top 10 couples video. This is kind of an advanced one on that, adds extra things. You're trying to get rid of numbered cards cooperatively with another player without communicating, and just works nicely. Three Sind ein zu viel. I've got a few games like this where you are given a hand of number cards, you have to get rid of them. If you can't get rid of them in the right way or at the right time, you get punished by taking them, possibly, and then that's kind of negative points. This one works a bit differently. You actually have to collect some of your cards, but if you collect too many, three Sind ein zu viel means 3 is one too many, then you get punished. This is probably one of the cleverest ones, and it plays nice with a small group. I'll be talking about some others. Brainstorm is a great filler card game, party game, where they're just pictures, clip arts really. The artwork's pretty average, and you have to find links between them and shout them out, and then you collect those cards. It's kind of like a Speed Codenames Pictures or something like that, and it's different and has quite a lot for a small box, and I've kept it around. We've had some good times with that, and you can also kind of make up your own rules for it. So we played it once where all the connections that you made had to be film related, and that was really fun. Writer Emergency Pack, this is something that I kickstarted because I'm a writer, and it's by Jon August. I used to listen to his podcast Script Notes about screenwriting, and so this isn't a game, this is just some cards that help you with writing tips. Rage is another one of these great small box card games. I was given this by my sister-in-law, so thank you for that. And this is another one of these games where you're trying to get rid of stuff and not get punished. Quinto is probably one of my favorite games in this kind of small box line. This is a roll and write game where you're rolling dice and then you have to write the numbers on a bit of paper, and there's some push your luck to it. It's amazing. It's probably, top travel game. We play this one on holiday all the time. I love it. And it's great with 2 players, it's great with 8 players, anywhere in between. Saboteur is a classic hidden role game. One or a few people are saboteurs. They're trying to ruin it for everyone else. So you're dwarves digging tunnels, and they're trying to sort of send you off the wrong way, but stay hidden whilst you do it. I haven't had amazing experience with this game. I think it can take a bit long, and people can really struggle to bluff in it. So it might not be long for my collection, but it's definitely interesting what it does in a tiny box, but yeah, not 100% sold on it. Team Play is a fun team card game. You're playing in teams of 2, I think, and you're trying to understand what your teammate wants to do. And it's really about collecting numbered and colored cards and playing them in sets. You're trying to complete certain missions. I just like being able to play a team game that's such a small box, and it just works really nicely. It's a hard one to describe really and do it any kind of justice. Sign is a game that I haven't played. This is similar to, well, it's based on the public domain game called Tamps, or it's got a million names, but where you've got a hidden thing with your teammate. You're trying to collect cards, and you are then have to communicate them to them secretly, and you've kind of agreed something ahead of time. Maybe it's a blink or you move your hand in a certain way, and the other team are trying to watch out for that. I've got some other games like that, but yeah, so this one I haven't played, so I can't really tell you much more about it, I'm afraid. Six Nimmt is a classic filler card game, almost like the pinnacle of what these small boxes are. And this is a bit like 3 Sindines Juweel, almost like the predecessor, where you've got numbered cards, you're trying to get rid of them at the right times, and it's about trying to guess when other people are going to play their cards and how you can get away with it. And if you get punished, you're going to have to take all these negative points. People think it's all luck-based. I can tell you it's not, because I play it with newbies and beat them every time. I really enjoy this one. It's good with big groups. Dictdran is actually very similar to that game. It's almost an advancement on that. I don't know how to describe how it's different. It is different. Maybe better with slightly smaller groups. Maybe a bit more thinky than Sixth, maybe a bit less luck heavy. So I don't know if I need it, but it was fun when I played it. Wow, we're really in the... I've really got way too many of these types of games, because this is X-Nymph. This is basically the same game, but really good for 2 to 4 players. This one's really tactical and thinky. I really like this one, and it's different. So, but then we've got 23, which is also like it. It's a while ago I played this, so I can't even remember the differences. I'm not sure I need all of them, so not resounding recommendation. Then we've got Tokyo Train. This is very different. This is a party game, big group game, where you're playing in teams of 2, and you're having to communicate with to your teammate, but with very strict. They're basically giving you words to say to them that tell you how to do colors, and then you're doing, I think, shapes. You're kind of doing not sign language, but you're moving your arms around. It's a silly one. If you've ever played Ugtect, this is from the same designer. But look, it's a similar fun, crazy experience in this tiny box. So that's why I've kept it and haven't kept Ugtect. Romish Poker, and I heard about from Adam Board Game Wales. Check out his channel. This is a push your luck dice game where you roll the dice and you have to create some Roman numerals, but they have to make sense. So you keep rolling and setting aside a die, but if you get to a certain point, like if you roll 4 eyes and nothing else, then that's not a real Roman numeral, so you go bust. It's quite luck heavy. I don't know if I'll keep this one forever, but it's cool. It's a simple kind of simple push your luck dice game. Right, let's get back to some bigger games. That was a lot of small games. Letter Tycoon is a great gateway word game, quite different, where you are building words with letter cards, and you're getting points, and then you can buy stock in certain letters. So then when other players use those letters, you get money out of it, and then you'll keep expanding. Such a clever idea, and yet really simple rules. This is a great alternative to Scrabble. Really like this one, keeping that. Wits and Wagers, this is one of my favourite party games. It's a bit longer than your average one, a bit more involved. You're betting on trivia questions. A question asks you, what percentage of women in America have tattoos? Everyone writes an answer on a whiteboard. They're put in numerical order, and then you bet with poker chips on which answer you think's right, and there's different odds. Really great interactive game. And inside here is also the party edition that I can use with Wits and Wagers Vegas that was in my top 10 party games of last year. Scrawl, this is in my couch games video. It's basically Telestrations, but a more mature version. So much funnier. Yeah, just love it. And it's a definite keeper because of the prompts that it provides. I just wish there were more of them. Stinker is in my Cards Against Humanity video. It gives you a prompt, and then you create answers with Scrabble tiles. But you're kind of forced into, you've got very limited choice, so you have to be creative. And it's hilarious. Love that one. So keeping that one. Generally, if a party game is great, I'm keeping it because it's going to get played a lot more than a game that lasts 3 hours. Spaghetti is a family dexterity game. You've got a plate of spaghetti, which is made up of shoelaces, and then these ping pong meatballs, and you're having to take out the spaghetti carefully without the ping pong falling off the table. I love that it's a kind of thematic dexterity game. It's quite simple. I don't think everyone loves it. it's kind of a big box, so I don't know if it'll stay around forever, but I love it, and I love the production of it as well. It looks amazing. CV, this is a classic game that's in my top 10 couples video about, it's a card game and dice game about building a life, living life. You get jobs, you have relationships, stuff like that. And it's a really simple system, but just tells a story. I would only play this with 2 players. With more than that, I feel like it goes on too long. And also in here is Civilizations, which I did a review of, and is another great kind of gateway style game. Capital. This is from the same designer as CV. This was a surprise hit from Essen, not last year, the year before. This is a tile drafting game about building parts of the city of Warsaw. It's hard to describe why I like it so much, but it's approachable and thinky at the same time, and I like the way it looks on the table. That's Capital. Things is quite a long-running party game. I think it's been around for a while. I hate that it comes in a wooden box. This absolutely my least favorite thing in the world is board games that come in a least favorite thing in the world. Least favorite gaming thing in the world is board games that come in a wooden box. This is a party game. How am I going to take a wooden box to someone else's party? But the way the game works is that there's a prompt, things you wouldn't do for all the money in the world, and then everyone writes an answer on a bit of paper. They're all handed in, a bit like Balderdash, they're read out, and you have to guess which of your friend wrote things. So you're trying to make your friends laugh, so it's a bit more creative than Cards Against Humanity, and I really enjoyed playing this with really good friends, because then trying to guess what everyone writes, and if your friends are really creative and funny, I think this is a fun one. It could come in a box like 3 times as small. This one I haven't played. This I got from Essen. This is the only UK version, or one of the only UK versions, of a murder mystery game called Gamer Over. It's set in a board game convention. Someone's died and you all play roles, and I've never played one of those proper murder mystery games, and I really need to get this played, so can't say more than that really. Doodle Rush. This is a super fast drawing game and guessing game where you're all drawing at the same time, then you're all guessing at the same time, then you're all drawing at the same time, guessing at the same time. It's such a immediate bit of fun, like Happy Salmon, and it's really it's so interactive and kind of stressful and shouty, and I like those kind of games. It isn't my favorite drawing game, but I love drawing games. And I think the hard cards are a little bit too hard at times. It just frustrates people, but it's a fun one. I don't know if it'll stay around forever, but I do enjoy it. Grumpf was a bit of a surprise. This was from Essen. This is a real-time game, competitive game. I have a lot of real-time games, but they tend to be cooperative. This one, you're trying to hunt these animals, and you're placing down your tiles, and you're trying to... It's a hard one to describe, but you're trying to rival other people and best them out. And then at the end of the round, you're kind of racing to do it all. And then you realize, oh, we kind of broke the rule for that one, so nobody gets anything. Or, oh, you put slightly more down than me there, and so you get it and I don't, and that's frustrating. Oh, I'm doing a terrible job of describing it, but I've enjoyed that one, and it's a bit different and a small enough box to keep. Wordsy is a word game, really approachable. I think this one would be good to play with families, parents, but you've just got a bunch of letters and you get points for using some of the letters. So you can create any word you want, but you want to use the letters that will get you the most points. I find that people are really good at this game and some people are really bad at this game, and so it can be a bit divisive in that respect. But if you know people that are great at Scrabble or just really great vocabularies and play it all together, you'll love it. This is my little bit of the shelf that all looks like the backs of books, so they're all together. Ex Libris is a Balderdash type game, but I love that you are writing the first lines or last lines of real books. So, and there's like maybe Oliver Twist in here or something, maybe not as famous as that, and you then all have to write what is the first line. Of course, you're making it up. You're trying to get other people to think that your line is right. And we played this a bunch, loved it, and you never guess the real ones. You always, with my friends, I could frame some of their answers. They just did such a good job of pretending to be books. Tortuga 1667 is a lovely looking game, which is, I think, part of why that I've kept it. But this one's really getting played a lot at my board game club. I haven't been playing it so much, but this is a team hidden role game. It's got a pirate theme. It's simple but different, and that's what I like about it. So keeping it for now, but I need to play that one more. And same goes for Salem 1692 as well. Same company, got it at the same time. Same awesome book thing. This is a bit more like Werewolf, where some of you are witches, some of you aren't, and you're trying to catch the witches. But I liked it. I had fun with it. So you just don't need loads of those types of games. Haru Ichiban is a 2-player abstract game. It's got a bunch of water lilies in a pond, and you're trying to create like Connect. It's kind of like Connect 4 a little bit. I've liked this one. We used to play this quite a bit as a couples game, but the box is way too big for what's inside there. And I don't know that, it's certainly not it wouldn't replace Onitama for me or Patchwork or things like that. So I don't know if it'll stay around forever, but I think it's a fun 2-player game. It's quite chilled out. I quite like that about it. Faces is a old school party game that I got for £2 in a charity shop. That was great. I loved it. It's terrible production value, proper mass market game. You have a prompt. The one who loves being a dentist, everyone's got faces. They're all old-timey faces, which kind of sucks, but they're all like really weird and ugly looking. And then you shuffle them up, and then, I can't remember. There's 2 different ways to play the game, but it's a bit like Dixit, that kind of thing. It's funny. It works. I think it would be better if there was like an updated version, but it's a really kind of good, approachable party game. Dead of Winter Warring Colonies. We're down onto almost the second to last shelf of this section. This is an expansion for Dead of Winter, one of my favorite games. I talk about my zombie thing where you are trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. It's basically like The Walking Dead, the board game. This expansion allows you to play up to 11 players with 2 warring colonies going against each other. I played it once the other day. I'm not sure I'll ever play it again. Not because it's terrible, because it takes forever to set it up, and it changes Dead of Winter quite a lot, makes it a completely different dynamic, and it was fun to play with a huge group, but I had to kind of rearrange my entire flat to put 2 tables together, and I don't think it was necessarily worth it. It's a really interesting idea. If somebody else was setting it up for me, I might play it, but as it is, I love Dead of Winter, and it's got new characters and Crossroads cards and stuff to improve Dead of Winter, so I'm keeping it for that reason alone, pretty much. K2 is a mountain climbing game, and I love that this one is thematic, but still a simple game. You're trying to survive, you're having to balance in your oxygen levels, but get to the highest point on the mountain, and you'll probably die whilst you do it. Really nice one, keeping that one. Hopefully, I think it's getting a reprint. Fearsome Floors is a horror game where you're trying to escape from a monster and everyone else is also trying to escape, and the monster kind of walks to the closest person. It's a fun one with a big group. Don't know if I'll keep it forever, but it's a nice thin box. And then Funny Friends is kind of a bit similar in that respect. I've only ever played this once. I spent ages looking for this one. It's another game about living a life, which is a theme that I love, but it's a bit more mature in the kind of things that you can do and comedic. It works in an auction style, cute artwork as well, but yeah, just don't know if I love the gameplay. Space Cadets Dice Duel. This one's kind of on the chopping block for me, potentially. It's a big group game. You're head-to-head. You're speed rolling dice, trying to attack each other in spaceships. It's just been, I don't know about it. I just don't know if it's quite right for me. And then there's also Captain Sonar, which is possibly better, but different. Dark Moon is a hidden traitor game. I love this one, love playing it at conventions. It's basically a shorter version of Battlestar Galactica, but you play with dice. I did a full review of this, love it, keeping this one, and picked up the expansion but haven't played with it. The Pursuit of Happiness is another game about living a life, and this is possibly my favorite one. Really tells a really great story. This is one of my only Euro games, but it's not too heavy, and decent artwork as well. So keeping that one, and I've got the expansion in there as well. Spectre Ops, this is possibly on the chopping block. I did this in my hidden movement game. You're trying to get around a complex, everyone else is hunting you, and I've liked bits of it. It's got some interesting ideas. I've also got other hidden movement games that are possibly more fun. There's going to be a new version or an expansion coming out, so I sort of might wait to try that. I don't really know about Spectre Ops. Really nice look to it. Legacy, The Testament of Duke de Cracy, is one of my other Euro games that I have. And again, I love the theme of this. It's about building a family tree. You're some French dignitary and you're trying to create the right family and marry people off. It's kind of Downton Abbey style. And I really like that to it. And it comes out in the way you play it. Haven't played it in a while though. And will I still love it? I've kind of maybe a bit less, it goes on quite long and I might be a bit less forgiving of that. Riff Raff I talk about in my dexterity games video. It's a spectacle game. You've got this rocking boat and you're trying to place things on it. Love it. It's really immediate and works really nicely. Ticket to Ride Europe. This is the game that started off this entire collection for me, really. It's a classic. I'm sure you all know about Ticket to Ride. You're building train routes. I don't play this one so much anymore, but I keep it to play with the occasional newbie. I wouldn't even use it as a gateway game all the time, but it's good with parents and people that want something super simple but still engaging. Clank is, I've done a full review of this. You're going into a dungeon, you're trying to steal from a dragon and get out before he eats you, and everyone else is doing the same thing. It's one of the only deck building games that I really like. So that, love that game, keeping this for a long time. Unless of course I play Clank in Space and prefer that one. Robinson Crusoe, I love this. This used to be one of my absolute favourite games. I don't play it as much anymore. But it's a cooperative game where you're trying to survive a desert island and it just tells such a story. Every rule in this game, it makes sense thematically, and I love games like that. It does make it a tiny bit complicated. But yeah, great game. Memoir 44, this is a classic two-player game of World War II battle. You're on a battlefield, so it's the Germans versus the British and America, or the Allies. And it's really simple. That's what I love about it, is that it's approachable. It's a gateway war game. You don't need to remember loads of rules. And I like the idea of war games, but often they're too complex for me. I really want to play this in the Overlord version with 4 players aside, things like that, and I never have. So I think I would really enjoy that. Terror, and this also has fauna inside, is a trivia game where you're guessing on answers. It might ask you about a famous place in the world. You have to guess where it is and then answer certain questions about it, how big it is, or how many people live there, something like that. And nobody knows the exact answer. It's all about guessing and being close to the right answer. And it's a great alternative to classic trivia games. Ultimate Showdown, I really enjoyed this one. I've only played it once. It's quite a recent get for me. You have all these different celebrities and fictional characters, and they're being put off against each other to compete in things like who throws the best parties out of Genghis Khan and the Abominable Snowman and Medusa. And you've placed a hidden bet on these characters, and then you're arguing with each other and then voting, and it's hilarious. I love it. Really cool party game. Bit bigger than your average one. Stockpile, brilliant game. Talked about it in my Monopoly video. This is an insider trading game, stock market game. You're bidding on auctions and you're trying to make the most out of your stocks, but you know which one's going to tank and which one's going to rise this round. Great gateway game, just all round brilliant game. Quadropolis, also in my Monopoly video, a city building game, very simple, approachable, great look to it. Quite solitaire, but I really enjoy this one. That's Quadropolis. Okay, that is the first line done.